Ciao guys, welcome back to the ARTFUL podcast. It's Matteo, your host. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Let's grow this art community together. And no further ado, let's go on with a new episode. Good.
Yeah, I was a bit excited for the interview. So
Nice. That's what I like. Good. It's surprising. There's a few people that when I interview them, they're like, I don't even know why you would ask me to an interview because I don't think my life would be interesting. But then after the interview, they're like, actually, there's something to talk about. And yeah, everybody has a story, and that's what I'm about. And we met. So let's start from where we met. It was during my latest exhibition. And you stopped because you were curious about my series about immigration, and then we talked about that, and we talked about the fact that you as well were an immigrant. And what made me ask you to be part of the project was when I asked you where you're from, you were like, well, actually, that's the interesting part, which is that's what I'm really excited to discover. So let's jump straight away into it. If you want to just give a quick introduction of who you are, where are you from, and your first the beginning of your story.
Yeah, so I'm Marat. I'm 35 years old. So the question where I'm from is always a complicated question for me because I was born in Ukraine, or actually I was born in the Soviet Union, which doesn't exist anymore. And then it became Ukraine. And then as a kid, my whole family immigrated to Israel, and I grew up there. But then I left Israel for Germany, and I've been living here for almost 12 years already. So and I spent here I don't know, a big chunk of my life in Berlin. So also I feel like I'm also kind of from here. So that's why and I have 3 nationalities, 3 passports. So
Great. Freely to move anywhere. That's good. So where exactly where was in the Soviet Union? What they will say Ukraine now. That's the area that where you're from. Okay. And did you spend how long there before moving to Israel? Do you have any memories about that place?
Well, I was we moved on my 7th birthday, so I was still a small child. I mean, I remember the life of a 6-year-old child, and before, my kindergarten, the parks, my playing with kids, the nature.
So you have a grasp on what was your life in Ukraine, and when did you move the first time to Israel, which you moved with your family, you said, right? Because you were super young. How was the moving? So obviously that age is super your friends are everything. You want to play with your friends, and you create already your mini community around you. So how was the detachment from your first to the new one, to the new friends, to the new people that you met in Israel?
I think I mean, in this age, you're not that connected to it. You don't really have a community. I think it was much harder for my older sister, who was a teenager, and she really had her friends, and she had to I remember her crying, saying goodbye to her friends. And for me, I just finished kindergarten, and but I mean, I also didn't really understand what's happening. I mean, there was something really big happening, and all the adults around me were really stressing and really on edge, and just huge life change, and they were really completely finishing this chapter of their lives. They sold everything. They were completely they were leaving and I was okay, something big is going on. I don't really understand what. I mean, we're kind of moving somewhere, but I don't even have I'm 6. I don't really have a concept of what is a faraway place. And I thought, okay, maybe it's a holiday.
What was the sensation? Was it oh, I know I'm never gonna come back to this place, or it was more oh, maybe I'm coming back in a bit? It was as you said, as a holiday.
I think it's felt really pretty final. I mean, I remember all the adults around me were especially just before the end, all the goodbye parties, and them crying and being kind of really heartbroken of leaving their life there. And so it really felt okay.
Yeah, you were pretty aware of or your surrounding of like the adults, and that's what make you feel like, okay, I'm not coming back here. And
Mhm.
why did you move to why your family moved to Israel?
At that time, it was like a huge wave of immigration. Like, I mean, after the Soviet Union collapsed, I mean, in the
Mm,
early 90s, it was like complete chaos and anarchy. And like, I mean, my parents lost their jobs and there was like, so it was not safe. It was like basically the whole like world, like their world completely upturned. And everybody who could, kind of for the, like finding a better opportunity for them and their children, like they left. And so my family is Jewish, and Jewish people couldn't really leave, or nobody could really leave Soviet Union before. But then,
mm,
as soon as it's like the borders opened, like many, like over 1 million people moved to Israel, or also
yeah,
to Germany, to the States.
yeah. And then how was your life in Israel um as a new child, and you were pretty young? How was the approach with like these kids? Because kids can be brutal and can be can be like
Hmm.
really. That's what something that I discovered even talking to people when people are like moving like really young, like you did. They said most challenges was when they were kids and moving, and from a group of kids to another group of kids. They were the group of kids, the new group of kids. Most of the time were like savage, and they were not nice. So how was
Hmm.
your experience in the school, and until what age did you stay in Israel?
Until I was 24.
Okay, so
Yeah.
big chunk of your life.
Mhm.
So how was it? First moving, the adapting to the new place.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge adaptation. I mean, I just started school there anyway, but also, I mean, of course, I didn't speak the language. I was just I mean, it was like the entire like school environment was new, but also a new country, new climate, new language, new culture. Everything was new, and I was kind of just like thrown into it. Like the kind of
Mm,
the approach was just like to put the children just like in normal school classes and not to kind of put them in some special like immigrant classes like they do in Germany, which was, of course, it was like not easy, but it also kind of like meant that I like really had to adapt very quickly, and and I learned the language very, I mean, also like in this age you just learn super fast,
mm,
and I learned the language and kind of like got like adapted or like had to, and kind of tried to like, I don't know, like copy what what other kids do. Um, but of course, I mean, I didn't feel like I was accepted or particularly welcomed by the local children, because I mean I was this like immigrant foreigner that like didn't know shit. But luckily for me, like I wasn't the only one like that. I mean, as I said, at the time it was a huge wave of immigration, and like
mm,
in the town where I lived, there was like also a huge community of like Russian-speaking immigrants, and like all in my class were like many kids that were like me. So of course, like you kind of stick together to those kids. So I also, so like most of my school years, I didn't really have friends who were like local Israelis who were
mm.
born there. I was mostly like friends with other immigrant kids.
Yeah. So how do you um deal with that? Was it difficult for you, or was it you kind of understood the situation and you just lived your life, and whoever was nice to you, you were just your friends, and you just grew up like that? Or did you felt like it was a really was it hard on you to grow up in this environment?
I think at the time, in some point, I just like, I think I had a lot of like kind of coping mechanisms
Mm,
that I just, so I didn't feel, also like I wasn't, most of the time, I wasn't like actively like bullied, or I wasn't like, I mean, people were not like actively unfriendly to me, but I also didn't feel like they were also like
welcoming.
especially welcoming.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I was, and like me being so different, also kind of being an immigrant, also like being queer, also, you know, very early kind of, I kind of realized that maybe I'm not like other boys.
Mm,
And so kind of this sense of being different, being like other, it kind of made me be shy or reserved, and I never really had many friends. I was like very kind of reclusive. I was mostly like after school, I was just like sitting at home and reading a lot of books, and had a lot of like fantasies about like imaginary worlds and stuff. And
He helped you create develop the creativity in you. So that's a positive aspect. So
mhm.
and how was the because you stay until 24, so it's a pretty big big part of your life, especially like adult life as well. How was the working there, or did you only study in until you were in Israel?
Well, I finished school and then I went to the army
All right,
because that's what you do in Israel. Like
it's mandatory, right?
after, yes, after school, everybody is supposed to go to do the army service, like also like boys and girls. And so I did. I was at the army, and then I studied at my bachelor's, and then I left. And yeah, so what
Yeah,
was the
yeah, yeah.
question?
How was the well, how was the experience in the army? I will say as um, a queer immigrant
Mm.
person that has no well has some connection at that point because obviously you at the time you were already some years into moving to Israel. So how was the experience with in the army?
Terrible.
Okay.
I mean, for me, the army service was a very difficult time. It was in a way it was quite traumatizing for me. Like I was not prepared for it, like not like
Mm,
mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and because and it's something that it just you just have to do. It's not even like something you really choose to do or you want to do. It's just like this kind of everyone is just is drafted, and also kind of like the way the society works is just like everything in your upbringing is like prepares you to your army service, and
okay.
also kind of like the education system, like the social pressure, and it's just something like it's very kind of fundamental experience in the Israeli society because everybody has to do it. Everybody has older siblings, cousins, parents
They
who
did.
have done it. Yeah,
Mm,
and there is also this kind of societal pressure of doing it because it's something like everybody has to. So you're not better than us. So I just did it, but I was. As I said, I was just not really prepared for that, what it really means,
mm,
and I didn't really have any kind of good coping strategies to really deal with it, and I just so I was really struggling there, and also just this feeling of otherness that I always because I wasn't born there, and I always felt like different, and I mean I grew up there, and I mean like I mean after a short time my language was perfect. I didn't have any accent. I always had like good grades, and I mean I really integrated well, and I was like.
mm,
But I still didn't really feel like I'm really part of this country. I'm really like the people who were born there.
mm,
And the army service, it was like for me, in a way, this breaking point of this like why am I even doing it? Like why? And then after I finished it, I was like, okay, like I kind of paid my dues to this country. I served.
yeah.
I gave my like my obligation, and now I don't owe anything to this country anymore.
Isn't that
And
well?
then.
Obviously, I'm guessing that at the time you were an Israel resident because you obviously moved there when you were like super young. So I'm guessing
Mhm,
like your parents they make you um an Israeli citizen. And
mhm.
but isn't it crazy that even like you technically you're not from there, you have no really any attachment, really like culturally and roots from Israel, but you still had to do the mandatory army, which to serve a country that it's not technically yours. Obviously,
Well, I
thankfully,
mean,
yeah.
it became mine. I mean,
Mm, okay.
I got the citizenship like immediately. I mean, when we arrived, because like if you're Jewish, you kind of the
Mm,
law says that you just
you'll
always
get it.
has the right
Mm,
to become a citizen, and I grew up there. I mean, I did all my like school years there, so I mean, I didn't feel like I'm a foreigner. I mean, I didn't feel like, but I still, so maybe that's why I always had this kind of identity like
struggle.
crisis or this
Mm,
struggle of like, okay, like I am a citizen. I grew up here. This country like shaped me, but I don't really feel like I'm part of it. And but also that like I have my first language is Russian, and like I also like grew up in that culture, and I had this like okay, I kind of like belong to both, but I also like not here and not
mm,
there because I
mm,
don't really like. I don't feel like I'm fully Israeli, and but of course I also don't feel like I'm Ukrainian, or because I didn't grow up there and I don't know much about the life there. So
Yeah, they cut pretty quickly the connection that because obviously you were too young to create many. And then you moved to Berlin, and I'm guessing that was a choice. So did you choose to move?
yes, I chose to move, and I wanted to basically like when I think I was 12, my parents took me for the first time to Europe on holidays, and I was like, yeah, that's where I want to live.
Nice.
And kind of always had this dream of just like moving out, moving away, moving to Europe as soon as I could. And the point where I could was after I finished my bachelor's, and so I always had this like aspiration to move to Europe, and because I didn't feel like I belonged in Israel. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel um, but I didn't have like a specific destination. It was just like, and it doesn't matter, somewhere in Europe, and
Somewhere in Europe.
everything is better than this place. So I did. So Berlin was actually like it was a coincidence almost. Like I didn't know anything about Berlin. I didn't come to Berlin because I was like, oh, like the music scene or the party scene or the queer
Mm.
scene or whatever. I didn't know any of that. I was like, well, it's the capital of Germany, must be good. And I just like I came through a volunteering program, and they had like one spot in Berlin, one spot in Cologne, and I was like, well, I mean, probably Berlin is more interesting. So and then I chose Berlin, and then I like ended up here.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So then, obviously, then you face again the language, which is always a struggle when you move to Berlin and Germany in general. Um, and obviously, again, new people, meeting new people, creating your community again, your friends. How did you deal? Or how did you deal with that? But now as an adult, so as it like into your 20s, you know how to deal a little bit more with people. What was the difference between you were a kid and now you're an adult, you move to a new country, which you choose actually to move to?
Yeah, I mean, I was in my 20s, but now looking back, I feel like I was still pretty much a kid. Like
Mm,
and I moved here, but then like because in Israel, like I mean, I moved out of my parents' place when I
okay.
studied, but I still, they supported me financially, and I could always go back to them, and like I always had my family to support me, like not only
Mm,
financially, but also like just
emotionally
support.
and yeah, support.
Yeah, and here I was for the first time I was like really on my own, and I was and then I really had to learn a lot to like how to like go through life just being like learning to be an adult and and also the struggle was that I didn't know anyone in the city, it's like I mean other people move here and they already have some friends here or some like relatives or like whatever,
Mm.
but I came here and I was like, wow, I just with my suitcase, I don't know a single soul, and then like you really start from scratch, so just kind of
Were you
uh,
excited? Were you like positively excited when you put your foot down in the cities, knowing that you were gonna stay there for a while? Um, how were you feeling? Like, were you like nice or yeah, or were you terrified?
I think like I moved here in the summer, and in the beginning I was just so happy. I was like, wow, like it's amazing. Like it's a big international city, and there is so much nature and everything is so green, which is coming from a desert country. It's
Mm,
really special, and everything works, and the infrastructure is great, and has order, and it's clean, and there is no stress, and but also just like, wow, I'm starting a new chapter. I'm like, finally I made it. I'm in Europe. It's amazing. And then so there's like initial excitement. It was in the summer, but then like slowly like the autumn came and the winter came,
yeah, yeah.
and
The Berlin winter hit. Yeah.
yeah, the first Berlin winter is always a shock, and then it kind of slowly like dawned on me. It's like, wow, okay, like like I am really in a different country. I am lonely. I don't know people, and or this like new people that I know that I got to know. I can't really rely on them,
Mm.
and I have only myself to rely on, and it was difficult. Like it was kind of like the initial magic kind of went away, and then like the actual Berlin like life started, and
Mm.
then so yeah, I mean, I didn't like uh give up. I wasn't like, okay, it's shit, I'm
Yeah,
going back. I kind of never really thought about going back as an option. I was like, I am gonna do anything I can not to go back. But
that's similar for me. Like it's I don't know what it is, but if when I left Italy, I kind of knew that I was not going to come back, because I did not want to come back. And when I left England, coming here to Berlin, felt the same. Like I know I'm not gonna coming back there, and even if it doesn't work out here in Berlin, I don't think I'm gonna go back to England. I'm gonna try something new. It's a weird, yeah, a weird emotion that you have, not being attached to the first place that you live, and yeah, it doesn't feel like going back is the solution. Yeah.
mhm.
So yeah, and how was the yeah? So you've been in Berlin for a bit now, and what was the, let's say, the biggest challenge that you faced at the beginning, moving to Berlin?
I think it was really like finding a network,
Mm,
finding as like a friends or some support network, or because I think my biggest challenge was that I felt really lonely. I mean, luckily there's all this like logistical things. It was organized through the volunteering program that I was doing, so I didn't
okay.
like really need to worry about that. It was more like emotional challenges or and me kind of like for the first time really dealing with like really being on my own and really like facing like life in a huge city where nobody cares about you.
Mm,
And I was working in this volunteering program. I was working with only Germans and also like a bit older Germans, and they just didn't have any concept of what it means to be an immigrant or what it means to live in a different even in a different city, because most of them were from Berlin,
yeah.
and they just completely could. I mean, like they were nice, but they completely didn't like could understand what I'm going through, so they were also not really helpful. And
Yeah. Sometimes even like they don't, even if in this case they don't do anything um intentionally bad to you, you kind of like they don't help the situation because they cannot relate to you.
yeah.
And did you not find any other immigrants, any other people, person, any other person that you could connect on that level? Because for me, when I moved, especially in England, the first community that kind of like obviously get to know it's were other Italians, because especially Italians, they're like super, they loud and they connect really quickly, and we as soon we see that there's another Italian, best friends forever. Like so, it's easier for us to connect when we are outside. And at some point, you know all the Italians in the city. So that was the first, connection that you can make as an immigrant. Did you not manage to have any of this?
If I'm honest, I didn't want to. Like,
Okay.
I mean, Israelis are exactly like that. They're also loud. They're also like find each other right away. They are becoming best friends forever, and kind of like they really stick together and like form this like little bubbles. And of course, it is very helpful, and it's very nice to be like around kind of your people.
Mm,
But the key is that I didn't feel like it was my people. So I mean, I moved out of Israel. Like my choice was to move away from Israel. So I
that's so
also kind of
interesting.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I just really wanted. I didn't have any desire to be in touch with other Israelis, because, well, I mean, if I wanted to be with other Israelis, I could have stayed.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
kind of
feel
true.
like kind of like there are two types of expats. There are the ones who like really like stick to their people, and the ones who have like don't want anything to do with their people. And I
Mm.
think I'm the second kind.
I remember clearly that day where I decided to not have relationship anymore with Italians, because it got to the point that I was in England and I was spending time with Italians, only Italians, and I was like, this is not helpful. This is not working like for my benefit in the future. So I'm here to kind of like, learn English and everything and working and stuff. So me only being with Italians is not an helpful thing. So I remember clearly that day where I decided to, back a little bit on that part of only knowing only Italians, and then you kind of explore more like, yeah, in England I explore more like English people and even just people from whatever. So yeah, that's clearly like something that you have to face as an immigrant when you move away. But okay, let's see. Did you ever had any unpleasant encounter when you were here in Berlin? So people like telling you that you're not from here, or being really like nasty for you for no reason because you were not from here.
Luckily, I like, knock on wood, I never had like instances where people were like really like directly aggressive to me because of that, or so unfortunately, like I didn't experience this like any violence or any like this kind of racism. But of course, there is always this like implicit racism, or this like this kind of this constant othering, and just like based on how you look or how you speak or how you're perceived. And I think like now, after like so many years here, I also like know I know German, but I also know kind of like enough about German culture and German people to really like sense this subtle cues and sense these differences. And it's, I mean, like these cases where I ask a question in German and people answer me in English because they think I don't speak it. Or I went to do an art class, and it's in this classes it's mostly like older white German women, and I could really feel they were like very somehow like apprehensive of this like southerner man coming there. It's like what does he have to do with art, and like why is he like, oh, it's kind of very suspicious or somehow like very out of place for them. And then when I said that I studied art history, it was just like shock, because or like this is like big surprise. It's like, ah, wow, you like, oh, you're, because you're not like, because for them I look like a Turkish barber, and and it's like, ah, wow, you're not a Turkish barber, and that's just kind of completely like doesn't fit to their perception and this kind of things. And it's like it's not nice, and it's always, and like it's kind of, it makes me feel like, oh, like will I ever really feel like I belong here? And it's again like exactly the same kind of question. It's kind of my life journey of like finding a place where I do feel belong. And these things don't like make me feel that that like German people will ever accept me as part of them. Even if on paper I'm German, I have a citizenship and I speak the language pretty well, and I have been living here for so many years, but I still like, I'm not marked for them as German.
Yeah, it's do you think it's more so? This is a bit a weird question. As meaning, do you think it's more like because you don't feel is your home, so it's kind of like a reflection of what you feel that you see outside, or it's coming from outside that makes you think this is not gonna be your home? I don't know if it makes sense.
I think it's both. I mean, I think it's hard to separate these two feelings. I think this like the way you are received or not received, and the way you feel about the place. I think it's like very interconnected. And I've been thinking a lot about this question of like, where is my home, or like, will I ever find a home? I mean, after spending like a third of my life in Berlin, like, is this my home? I don't know. I don't. Will I stay here forever? I don't know. I can also see myself like moving somewhere else in some point. And I think this, and because I was like born in one place and grew up in another, and I'm like, and I also discovered there was like a sociological term for people for people like me. It's like a third culture kid. And I don't think I will ever find a real home, like a place where I really feel like I belong or have roots. And this whole concept of roots is really hard for me to even like relate to, because I don't have it. Like, and especially now that we see this like a horrible war that is going in now in Israel and Gaza, and like that people are fighting for this little piece of land and killing each other, or mostly Israel killing Palestinians, and just and it's like over what, like a few kilometers of land.
Yeah.
And and I can't really understand this attachment that people have to a place, because I'm like, well, like, you know,
Let's
like
say you will never see yourself being a person that can think like that.
Yeah.
That's so attached to basically just a place that you can think and you can act in that way. Yeah, it's really it's the same. I was born in Italy. I grew up in Italy, but at the same time, it never felt like home. It never felt like I'm in the right place. I don't know why from the young because living when I was 18, 19, I'm still pretty much a kid. So it never felt like home. And even in England, I spent like 8 years there, and still, as I said before, I don't think I will ever go back living in England. So it's difficult to define home when you decide to do a life like this. I think I came to solution thinking about this and doing this project and talking to these people. Solution. It's more like an idea what home is for me and what is can be for people. It's the people that you meet, and it's the people that you really connect, not just friends. Because I don't know, when you do this life, you don't really have friends, meaning these people can always go and you can always go. So you can get to the level that you call them friends, but inside that they're not going to be there forever, if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you find these few people that you can connect 100%, I think that's what you can call home. It's more like, the group of people, because I know I have like a couple of friends from England that I know I can always call. I know I can always relate to. That's for me more home when I think about my time in England. That's my home. So that's what I think you can relate to the word home. It's the people that you connect for real while you're traveling, while you're moving country to country. And it was really interesting talking to you about that concept of home, which I think there's so much to say, and we can go on for like hours about that. Yeah. Anyway, I want to end with one question that I ask at the end of the interview, pretty much everybody. If What was your proudest moment as an immigrant? If you can point to one, or if you have more than one, and if you think being an immigrant made you a stronger person, or at least it changed you as a person.
Yeah, so I think my proudest moment was me getting the German citizenship. And because it was like basically a culmination of everything that I worked so hard to achieve in this last 12 years, or 10 by then. So I mean, more than just getting this passport and kind of having this freedom and this peace of mind that I'm not on a visa anymore, I'm staying. But it was just like, for me, it was kind of like the award that I got for surviving here for so long, for being able to support myself financially, to like really to find an apartment with Anmeldung in Berlin, which which was a whole ordeal, and basically like for surviving and for making it happen, and for really not giving up, and for working so hard for this. And that's like, for me, was okay, like this is like this like the sign of like I did everything right, and it was all worth it. And so and I know, like, I not like no shade on anyone, but like I didn't get it through like marrying someone. I didn't get it through some kind of like, I made it completely like through my own like hard work and my own like tenacity and not giving up. And so I think like that, I'm really proud of that. And
I felt some shading there, but yeah. Just saying.
Yes.
Congratulations on that. That's as an immigrant, as somebody that is traveling and wants to stay. Because I think one thing that's really important to understand, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this project, it's to put a spotlight on this positive side of immigration and being immigrants. There are people that are really proud to be an immigrant, and there are people that take proud of the country where they're staying. As you're saying, you've been here for like 12 years now. You are a citizen, and you worked really hard to get the citizenship. So it's really important, I think, to show to people this. And yeah, my second question would be, if being an immigrant, all going through all this moving and from where you were a kid and everything, made you a stronger person? They change you, and if they change you, how?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I spent here most of my 20s and like kind of my formative years, and so anyway, Berlin changed me because I think I was exposed here to things that I would not be exposed to, or I got in touch with things, and I discovered things, and I also discovered things in myself, and I really grew a lot in this time. And but also this, yeah, as I said, like this whole experience of like being like really on my own and like really like making it happen, and not like having this safety net to rely on, like because like as I said, like going back to Israel was never an option for me, and I have like a pretty complicated relationship with my family, so like I also like that would be like a nightmare for me to like to. And so yeah, so just kind of like growing up really, and like really kind of becoming my own parent and my own person, and yes, and like going through all the hardships, and like it was, can't say it was easy, like 12 years. I mean, there were amazing things. There were like, I mean, the people I met, the places I've been, the experiences that I've had, I'm very grateful for that. But it also wasn't all like magic and party. It was also really hard, and me going through these hardships, and like not giving up and surviving them, and not losing hope, and like really like working hard through them. Of course, like it made me the person that I'm now, and
Yeah,
yes, so of course
that's
it was a good experience.
amazing. That's yeah, that's as I said before, it's the reason why I'm doing this, and kind of try to change the narrative of how society sees immigration and immigrants in general. But yeah, anyway, Marat, thank you very much to be part of the podcast and for this beautiful interview, and to share your story with us. And yeah, thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Matteo. Thank you for listening to my story, and thank you for showing interest. And
yeah, my pleasure.
Happy to be part of this project.
Great. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.